Okay, welcome to the Soul-Led Revolution with me, your host, Yolandi Boshoff. And today I'm very excited to introduce you to Dr. Sarah Coxon. Now, Sarah is an archaeologist turned author, a Dharma coach, a holistic business mentor, and a sacred activist. And she's here to help as many people as she can to build their self-belief, find purpose, and thrive in business. So welcome, Sarah. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, awesome. So currently, Sarah is one of my business mentors. And the first time I met her was on a call about her book, The Way of the Priestess. So I wanted to quickly just delve in because for me, the first time I met her, I'm like, she's an archaeologist. This is so fucking cool. She's written about priestesses, totally my jam. So I just wanted you to tell us a bit about like archaeologist to business mentor. Like what happened? How did this all begin?
Where did it all go wrong? No, so yeah, I mean, I didn't start off life, but 18 years old, I decided, right, I'm going to go and study archaeology at university. I'd wanted to be an archaeologist since I was 9 years old. I remember watching Time Team, for those of you that know what Time Team is. And reflecting back now, I feel that the reason why I wanted to become an archaeologist was because I felt that something was really off in our modern society. Like we're missing something. I felt like there was this ancient knowledge that I wanted to understand and connect to. So I went down the only route that I knew at that time, which was to go down the university route, and very, very quickly learned that academia is not for me, but I stuck at it because I'm really, really stubborn. And during that time, I did so many different types of research, but the research that really, really, really spoke to me was understanding the role of women in prehistory, and also understanding that actually in the archaeological record, there's so much, there's so much evidence for women, but the way that they were written about in the archaeological texts was as if they didn't even exist, because we live in a patriarchal society that values men and masculine traits over women and other genders and feminine traits. So that was one rabbit hole that I went down. I finished my PhD and realized I just can't do this anymore, really. And so it was during that time that I just left to go and live in the Philippines and teach yoga full time, which everyone was like, what? You have this career, you could be, you're supposed to go for a postdoc and then a lectureship. And instead there I was just, tanning my ass on an island, teaching yoga and drinking from coconuts, which I thought was brilliant. And it was during that time that I really, because I was teaching yoga, but I wasn't teaching it in a way that it's like, oh, trim your abs or whatever. For me, it's like a real deep spiritual practice. I had an amazing teacher, Steve Harrison, at the Yoga Sanctuary in Southampton. And moving into that role of yoga teacher was when, for the first time in my life, I realized that I was channeling something. I felt like I was like channeling wisdom that I didn't even know where it came from. And so that morphed into coaching, into mentoring, into teaching. And so I've just been on this path of channeling. And that's really what priestesshood is for me, is like recognizing that we are channels to the divine, and we're the vehicles through which consciousness is elevating itself. That's it in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. And so buy the book and read about it, because like Sarah goes into a lot more detail in there. But yeah, so I love this because this channel of consciousness, and it's like, what I can say just from working with you is that I so appreciate that you bring that in, because it is like there is this vacuum, there is this lack of soul and spirit when it comes to mentorship for me. Like, just that's my personal opinion. So people are very much like, it's the business side, this is how we do stuff, blah blah blah, but there's not that, like, that wisdom that comes through. There's not that heart, that soul that I find that you really bring through. So I really appreciate that. So it's just like, how have you been honing that? How have you been like delving deeper into that? Because I mean, you're bringing out a whole new load of programs. You're really starting to look at the world in a different way in how you speak in your posts on Instagram and all of that. So like, how do you feel like, how's that expanding within you? Like, what deeper things are coming out of that wisdom, like flowing through you?
Oh, that's so juicy. So I think for me, for some reason, I have always been very, very strong on my why, and I haven't really lost sight of why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. I view business as a vehicle, not the be all and end all. So the business is the vehicle to us living our dharma, to us helping other people, to us elevating consciousness. But even though I guess I am a business owner, and of course I have to speak about business, otherwise people wouldn't know what I was talking about, and that wouldn't make any sense. I guess I don't really identify as an entrepreneur. So I don't really identify with all the girl boss stuff and the boss babe and the, you know, all the stuff that's out there in the online business coaching space just doesn't really speak to me. Probably because I've got a lot of Uranus in my chart. So I'm just really like, proper Aquarian. And I think that I really take a systemic, I really use a systemic lens as well. Yeah. Really understanding patriarchy, really understanding the pitfalls of capitalism as well. And I understand the irony of the fact that I am a business owner. I am in the capitalist system, but I still think that just because we're in a system doesn't mean that we don't call out what we think is toxic and what is fucked up with it. So I take a systemic lens, which basically means that I recognize that, we can use business as vehicles for real freedom and healing, or we can just re-ingrain toxic ideology and toxic tropes and so that's kind of where I am with it. And one of the things that is really, really important for me to live myself, but also impart with my clients, is that business is a vehicle for our personal fulfillment. We're living our dharma. We are, we're making money. You're allowed to make money. That, what a privilege to earn your money from sharing your gifts. What an absolute privilege. And it's also a vehicle for social healing, social regeneration, and also earth regeneration as well. So that is leading me to really go really down the rabbit hole of trying to understand how we can minimize the harm that we could potentially perpetuate as business owners, and instead bring ourselves into spaces where we are, doing as much good as we can in the world.
That is so whoa, because I'm like you're talking about, like, in a lot of the things that you write, that sustainability, that like that idea that we hold that we need to be, 7-figure coaches and make $1 million and all that type of stuff, and that sustainable aspect of, like, what is it that you need, and if you have this much, what can you do, and not just for yourself but for your environment, for your communities and all of that. And that for me, like, really struck a chord when I decided to work with you, because I was just like, this is the type of shit I want the world to move into, right? And like getting out of those patriarchal mindsets. So, like, any advice from your side for our listeners as to, like, how can you, if you're running your business, how can you start, like, changing that perspective? Like, what can you do to start shifting and actually looking at it more from a holistic perspective?
That's such a good question. So I think that actually it's not very sexy, but to start with, what do I need? We base a lot of our goals on desires, and there's nothing wrong with, like, real, true heart yearnings, but recognize that a lot of the goals that we have and the things, basically, if you think you should be growing anything to a certain level, any shoulds, then you're most likely operating from conditioning. You're most likely operating from an idea of what you should be doing, and that's been given to you. So instead, like, first of all, come back to your needs. We live in the 3D world, most of us. We need to understand our needs, right, when it comes to our goals, but then also recognizing that just because Sally down the street is doing something doesn't mean that we have to be going for it. And I think that we have to also really be redefining our definition of success, and we have to redefine our definition of prosperity, and also recognize that there are so many different currencies of prosperity. So there's financial prosperity, but there's also the quality of the relationships you have with your clients, or there's the time that you have with your family, or there's your health or your spiritual growth. And if you're not watering all of those gardens, then you are not prosperous. And a quote that, I don't know who it was, but it's a book called The Real Wealth of Nations. Eileen someone, I'm sure, I can't remember her name, but she wrote something along the lines of, that to be striving for endless achievement and endless riches and endless status is to be like a first class, a business class passenger on a plane that's going down. And that's kind of how I see it, because we're at this point now where there's this great shift that is occurring on our planet, and we have to choose whether we really evolve or whether we get stuck. And I think our businesses are mirrors for that. So it's like, hang on, what am I trying to say here? I feel like I'm getting sidetracked, but
no, but I'm loving where you're going.
Yeah, because I think it's like, even our personal goals, our business goals, like, what if we have frameworks like an impact assessment framework to ensure that these goals are having a positive impact on not just ourselves, but other people and the planet? And this is something I'm actually currently working on with my mentor, is like creating these impact assessment frameworks for our business goals, but also our personal development goals. I'm so pissed with the whole manifestation babe shit that's out there. Like, I'm just going to say it, because it's completely individualistic. It's reeks of toxic capitalism. It's not spiritual at all. It's just materialism. It's exploitative, because it's just bringing in people who really are in a state of survival and are actually quite traumatized because of the system, and preying on them. Sorry, manifestation babe, hope you never listen to this. Or actually, no, I hope you do. And it's just disgusting. And then anyone who feels like this, feels like in their gut that something isn't right, is immediately gaslighted. Oh, it's your money mindset, or oh, you're jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of these people caring about the environmental impact that all these, private jets and things, like, we can't all become the 1%. I'm sorry. If we wanted to have those kind of material aspirations, then we need 3 planets worth of resources, not 1. Yeah. This is not what growth is. This is not what becoming unapologetically ourselves is. This is not what we're here to do. We are here to express who we really are. That is the measurement of growth, not how much money we have in the bank account, or how big our house is, or whatever. So that's my take on it. And it feels very unpopular, and it feels like it goes against a lot of the rhetoric of, like, you can have anything you want, any possessions, anything. And I just don't think that's true.
Mm-hmm. And I so and like, I so feel you, because at the moment what keeps coming through for me is that Like we are at, like you say, we're at a tipping point, and it is
Yeah.
time to actually start taking fucking responsibility for everything that we are consuming on this planet. And,
Mm.
if we're fueling our greed the whole time and having these aspirational dreams, that's utter bullshit. Just because, like you say, Sally down the road has this phone, that handbag, this fucking private jet, whatever the fuck it is for you, like, where are we going to end up? So someone needs to start saying something about these things. Someone has to go, guess what? This is bullshit, right? And this
Yeah.
is where we start. We start talking about it unapologetically. So thank you. Like, that just fucking inspires me.
Yes, yes. Well, it doesn't make me Mrs. Popular, but, and even the thing is, I have worked with clients and I still work with clients who do have big businesses and who have bought the Porsche and who have done this. And has it made them happier or feel more successful? Like, fuck, it hasn't. And, I'm not, and also here's something else, is that there's a lot of purism out there where it's like, well, if you are operating a business and you are still flying to England to see your family, and if you're not, recycling everything, or you're zero waste, then who are you to talk about this? That is bullshit. That is bullshit, because if we're striving for ethical purity in an impure system, it's a losing battle, really. Instead, like, you can call out the system, you can disrupt it, and you can say, actually, I'm going to make the best choices I can, but I still have to live in this society. I still have to, even us having this conversation, I don't know who made my phone. I don't know, like, we're all complicit. So I'm not here saying, oh, look at me, because I don't want to build $1 million. It means a business. It means I'm better than everyone else. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is build a fucking $1 million business, but redirect those funds to things that actually fucking matter to you and are actually going to, what was it? I heard a quote the other day, like, make you be a good ancestor. Like, how can we be good ancestors?
Whoa. Yes.
Like that.
Fuck.
This was it's a podcast called Green Dreamer, and it was one of their recent episodes. And I'm really bad with remembering names, but it was a guy, so check out their recent episodes. And he said, like, yeah, this idea of legacy is quite colonial in its sense, like leaving a legacy. And I'm guilty of talking about legacy. I'm pretty sure that I have it I've written about it in the book, maybe. He said, what about if we choose to be good ancestors? Like, what does that mean? So now that is a lens through which I'm making decisions about my business. And there was something you said as well about giving back. So, with business owners, particularly in the coaching industry, some of you are like, I don't even know what this is about, but some of you might really understand this. There's a lot of putting people who make a lot of money on a pedestal, and it means that they're better coaches and that they're more evolved and all of this stuff. And I don't really buy it, because they talk a lot about generational wealth, or I'm building generational wealth. And this really pisses me off, because I'm like, your wealth is going to mean nothing if we don't make better decisions collectively. Like, who do you think you are? Like, we're all, and this is not calling anyone out in particular. We all have this mindset, myself included. We all have this dominator, individualistic mindset that we must decolonize from. But something I did at the end of last year was, I'd had a very, very good year in business. I was about to go into a higher tax bracket, and I thought, fuck it, I don't want to give the government any more taxes, because I don't always know where it's going. And for sure, some things are great, and there are some things that actually are against my values. So I was like, okay, and I really wanted to do this workshop. I was so excited. And I was like, well, rather than make this a paid thing, it was in December, I'm just going to give it for free. Like, this is my way of giving back to the community, but not in a, look at me way, but just in, okay, great. Let me give back. So I think that we need to be thinking in those terms of, like, if we are in a privileged position, like, how can we also share those privileges as well? Because it's not all about me. It's not like, and I, every every dollar, every pound that comes into my bank account has come from you guys. This isn't like I'm self-made. This is a huge responsibility. Like, I'm here to serve. And it's, you know, my clients, I make it that you guys sustain me and my life. And I'm so deeply appreciative of that. And I just don't feel like there's that narrative. It's like, oh, look at me, I manifested this out of thin air. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
But I love that, because it brings back that human element again, right? Because like when we look at money and we look at these coaches and they go, I've manifested this, or like, you know, I'm making so much money. You're right. There's someone at the other end sitting there paying you that money. And if that person is paying you that money because they are under duress, because their nervous system is completely stressed out, they're putting themselves into debt because they believe whatever we are selling, you know, there's that, like, that for me is wrong. And one of the things that I really appreciated about when I signed up with you was how you approached payments and stuff, and like what can you actually afford models and stuff. And that inspired me to actually start changing my program to also have discussions with people about what can you ethically afford to put towards something that you really feel you need in your life and the work that I am doing. And that for me was like a huge mindset, like my whole like world changed. And it was so nourishing to actually launch something and not go, fuck, you know, like I'm feeling bad because this is my time, or what, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, and it actually made me feel like, you know what, I'm putting something out there where it's accessible. And like that accessibility is so important. And like that giving back aspect of it, it's just like, it's fucking vital. And we seem to just be gaslighting people the whole time, going, well, you need to push yourself harder to be able to afford to work with me. And it's like, it's bullshit. It's just like...
it's really exploitative. It's really, really manipulative. And I started implementing this sliding scale capitalist and anti-capitalist investment back in November. And I had no idea how it was going to work out, because, you know, I remember speaking to my partner and he was like, yeah, but aren't people just going to tick the lower one? Like, because there are three very distinct categories, and it's very, very carefully thought through. So it's not just like, what can you afford? It's like, do you own your own home? Do you own your own car? Do you have, like, it's very, very distinct categories. Can you afford, you know, massages from time to time? You know, those kind of questions. And what I noticed is it works beautifully, because value is relative. So for someone that ticks the higher tier, it's an investment that is relative for them, that, because investment is really just like, especially with the coaching, it's just really about like making sure that you value what you're doing and you show up and you do the work. That's essentially it. You know, it's nothing to do with our value as like it's nothing to do with our value. Like, I can't give, my value is infinite. Like, you know, what I price my program is what I price my program is has got nothing to do with my value. So anyway, it's been working absolutely beautifully, because people are really, really, really honest, and they like that. And they, you know, it's about accessibility. It's about not devaluing the work, but recognizing that not everyone is starting from the same place. And that's really, really, really important. And I believe that coaching, space holding, guiding, facilitation needs to be available to as many people on the planet as possible. So if I have that belief, my business model has to also reflect that. So that's the way that I see it. And it was so cool when you really like ran with it as well, because I think it just opens us up, doesn't it? It's just like, it feels so good.
I know, and it is that. And what I loved was, like, when I signed up with you, I was like, because it made me think, and I'm like, oh yeah, I fall into this category. So, you know, like, I'm like, I'm a privileged white woman and I can afford this, right? And like, so I'm going to be ticking that box because that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. So I'm not trying to bullshit you and go, oh my God, I have no money, because I mean, that's, that wouldn't happen. And I haven't even seen it with my own system. Like now that I've like started using that same system with my clients, I'm just like, people are just bloody honest about like where
Honest.
they're at.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
absolutely.
this is like real, this is who you are, and I love it. And let me work with you like from that place. Then that's cool. Like we start in a place of honesty. And I think if more people like start just like opening up the world, it's just like, there's so much goodness to be had there. And it's not just like, in my mind, I'm going, I have to make six figures, therefore I need to charge everyone this. It's like that accessibility thing is huge for me. So I really think
Yeah.
there's definitely something there. Oh man. Okay, so let me just keep my eye on the time here. So
Oh.
so you were mentioning also like something that you're very into at the minute also is the permaculture stuff. So I know
Mm.
that's like, so give me a little bit of insight on that, because I feel like that also ties into this whole be the ancestor, and that fucking is like mind blown for me, by the way. I know that was a while back that you said that now, but like, this all ties into how are we looking after the earth.
Yeah, well, we have to recognize that we are not, I mean, the dichotomy between humans and nature doesn't exist. It's conceptual. Like we are nature and we are actually a part of the ecosystems that we're living in. Um, I guess like, I don't really know what happened, but a couple of years ago, I just couldn't unsee certain things. And I started really getting very, very concerned about climate change. And I started getting really concerned about, yeah, like the deepening divide between rich and poor. So anyway, that kind of led me to go to do my permaculture design certification. I went in the north of Portugal. I did that for a couple of weeks, and I was doing other permaculture courses, learning a lot about indigenous wisdom as well, because some of the issues with permaculture is it was brought to the world by two white Australian men, when actually it's like indigenous wisdom. So I want to be mindful of that as well. But there are these frameworks for really working in harmony with nature and with Gaia, and understanding that most of our society and even our economic model is going against the laws of nature. Like our economic model, this whole like there must always be GDP and growth, that's based on a fundamental lie that there's infinite resources, and there isn't. So permaculture is really about regeneration. It's really about like aligning yourself with the laws of nature. And I think that because so much of my work was about the reclamation of the feminine, that was the missing piece for me. I was working with women and advocating for feminine traits and energies and approaches, or more yin now, I would say. But I hadn't really given a second thought to Mother Nature, or a little bit, but not deeply. But learning about deep ecology just has made me understand a little bit more. And I'm very humble about this, because there's so much, God, I mean, I only know a fraction, but it's like I can speak her language a little bit more, and it's like, now, I mean, I'm very lucky where I live in Portugal. I live in a national park, and there's nature like all around me, Now, when I walk past plants, I don't see plants, I don't see objects. I'm starting to see them as kin. And it's a very different relationship I'm starting to have. And it's also beautifully, deeply fulfilling for me as well, because whilst I'm here and whilst we're alive as a species, I mean, fuck knows if that's going to continue. It's fine. We'll evolve into something else. Like Mother Nature knows what she's doing. But we may as well connect. We may as well feel that we deeply belong. So I think that really connecting to Gaia and really learning about her and advocating for her as well is a route to that deep connection and belonging that we all crave, that we can't find on the end of our smartphone or from buying a Mulberry bag.
And that, and that just brings me back now when I'm feeling into this. It's just like, and this goes back to your 9-year-old self sitting there going, there's something deeper, and the wisdom is in nature and in the history and in the indigenous people and stuff, isn't it? So it's so beautiful how it's kind of like all come back together.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like, I love that.
That's it.
Okay, so I could literally, like, we could probably speak for another 3 hours. Let's quickly get into your program. So I'm in the Awaken to Freedom program. I absolutely love it. It's one of the first programs where I'm like opening my mind to other ways of thinking in a much deeper way. And I just want to thank you for that. So tell us a little bit about that program. I know you're still running it. You're probably going to be doing it. Like, just if people are interested, yeah, I can just really say that it's shifted my mindset about a whole bunch of ways that I do business. So
yes, that's what we're after. So I mean, really, it's a 6-month group mentoring container that is, it's for you if you're a coach, a guide, a healer, a facilitator, a teacher, and you want to learn how to predictably attract clients in an ethical and sustainable way. So really, we focus on crafting a premium offer, and like, how do you facilitate amazing transformation? How do you ensure that you are stepping into your role as of leader in a way that liberates rather than perpetuates harm? And also, how do you market and sell yourself? So it's not just a marketing and selling program. It goes a lot deeper, and it's really laying the foundations for what will hopefully be, for everyone who's been through, like a thriving business for years to come. And it really helps you think through business in a different way. Yeah,
totally.
that's it in a nutshell. Thanks. Oh, it's so good. It's so good to have you in there as well, because your questions and the way that you are in that container is just like, you bring so much to it as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really love as well, is that there's different personalities, and like, it just basically, it's really a very cool place to be. So thank you so much for that. And then okay, so if anyone wants to follow you, if people want to get in touch with your work, what you're doing, all of that, where do they find you?
So the best place is on Instagram. If you're on social media, you can find me at Dr. Sarah Coxon. You can also go to my website, www.drsarahcoxon.com. There's my book, The Way of the Priestess. And I also have a podcast, the Rise Priestess podcast. So yeah, if you liked what you heard here and you want to kind of go deeper into my weird and wonderful brain, that's where you can find out more of what I think about life.
No, I love it. And it's just like, I think we all need to kick up the arse, right? We need to kick up the arse to just sit back and go, hey, let me look at things a little bit different. Like, we all have to start somewhere. And if you are a business owner, start looking at, what are you doing? How are you showing up? I mean, that's what inspired me about your work. It's just like, that was where I came to, and I was like, whoa, look at how she's looking at things. And it made me think. So, I mean, that sacred activist role of yours, it's like, it's happening. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that you're showing up in the world bravely.
Thank you. And the same for you and your work. I mean, your work is just bomb. It's just shit hot. So yeah, this is it. We all live our Dharma in very, very different ways.
It's beautiful. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. So you know where to get hold of Sarah now. Just go follow on Instagram. Really, really awesome post. And check out her work. It's really beautiful. And thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Cool.